Our main character, Fang Yuan, died right when he loved her the most, all to please the school beauty's favorite guy. She locked him in a dark basement for an entire day and night until a short circuit triggered a massive fire. He suffocated inside, but right before he died, he caught one last glimpse of a girl. It was a girl, desperately smashing the door lock with a wooden bench to get him out. She rushed to his side, her clothes already catching fire from the raging flames. But she did not even care. Honestly, he could not even remember who she was at that moment. All he knew was that he died in her arms, his soul lingering right beside her even after death. The fire raged harder, yet she just held his lifeless body tight and refused to budge. His ghost desperately tried to push her away, screaming at her to run and save herself, asking if she wanted to die there, but deep down he knew the truth. She could not hear a single word from a ghost, not until the fire trucks finally roared in. Over a dozen firefighters had to drag her out of there, kicking and screaming. And just like that, his spirit finally left that absolute nightmare of a basement. Outside, the sun was shining. What a beautiful, cruel day. Then he saw Bai Ningbing pacing around nervously outside the burning villa. She was grabbing anyone she could find, asking if they had saved the boy in the basement yet. She had no idea he was already dead. Talk about a toxic 10-year crush. Even with him burning alive inside, she was too cowardly to ever risk her own life for his. Meanwhile, the heroic girl placed his body on a wheelchair, completely ignoring everyone around her. She just pushed him straight toward a black car parked nearby. Opening the door, she used all her strength to lift his body into the passenger seat. She even gently buckled the seatbelt around his cold body. Talk about heartbreaking detail. Then she slammed on the gas, speeding away from the villa. A girl escaping with a dead boy? Honestly, this felt straight out of a movie. They left the city behind, the high-rises slowly giving way to open fields. Down country roads they went until they finally reached the sea. The car pulled up on a deserted, completely untouched beach. She put him back in the wheelchair and slowly pushed him into the deep ocean. As the water swallowed them both, she whispered, "Fang Yuan, I am Ayn Rand. Do you still remember me?" Wait, is she confessing right now? Suddenly, our boy Fang Yuan snaps his eyes open. He realizes he is standing right inside a high school classroom, surrounded by teenage classmates. A guy nudges him, teasingly asking if that is a love letter in his hand. He looks down to find a crumpled piece of paper crushed in his fist. The envelope is addressed to Bai Ningbing. Yes, guys, he actually regressed back to high school. To the very day he confessed to Bai Ningbing. It is currently Friday afternoon. With 5 minutes left before school ends, Bai Ningbing is about to walk in. In his past life, he handed her this very love letter in front of everyone. What did she say back then again? Ah, right, she said sorry. Claiming she was not ready to date, Fang Yuan just shakes his head. Not this time. Right then, Bai Ningbing walks through the door, and someone yells her name, telling her that Fang Yuan has something for her. Instantly, Fang Yuan rips the letter in half. Tearing it right down the middle, he calmly says it is nothing. Just a joke, everyone. With that, he tosses the shredded letter into the trash. Honestly, her stunned expression is absolute gold. Back at her desk, she's immediately surrounded by nosy classmates. The crowd lets out a collective sigh, complaining that they wanted to see some real drama. Everyone just disperses while Fang Yuan sits back down and flips through a textbook. School is almost over and everyone is packing up their bags, totally hyped to leave. But she's got this nagging feeling that she's forgetting something that didn't seem important back then. So she just let it fade away, buried deep in her memories. Until the homeroom teacher walks in and she suddenly realizes it's him. The second the class sees the teacher, the whole room goes dead quiet. Everyone starts quiet complaining about how late it is. The bell's about to ring and the teacher is frowning hard. To be fair, their school is an elite private academy for ultra-rich kids. Since the students are all from powerful families, they are insanely hard to manage. The teacher waves to the hallway, and then a new student walks through the door. Wait! Now I remember! This is Anran, the iconic transfer student. He transferred here in senior year, always wearing a faded, overly washed school uniform. Even his backpack was completely falling apart, totally opposite from the luxury brands. and flashy styles of everyone else, and because of that, you already know what's next. He barely talked to anyone and was constantly treated like an outcast. He always sat alone in the very back row, endlessly solving practice problems. But get this, his grades were absolutely cracked, always top of the class.
He never dropped out of the top 3, especially in science.
We are talking perfect scores almost every time. Ayn Rand bows politely. He introduces himself, saying his name is Ayn Rand, transferring from Beijing. The teacher nods and points to an empty seat in the back, telling him to go sit there while Ayn Rand clutches his bag and slowly walks across the room to sit right behind Fang Yuan.
He quietly pulls out his textbooks, lining them up neatly on the desk.
Looking a bit tense, maybe even a little lost. But honestly, at 17, they've still got plenty of time. A real chance to start over. Once the teacher leaves, the classroom erupts and everyone turns around to stare at Ayn Rand. The class bully Fu Sheng struts over, asking if Beijing is that coal mining town, mentioning his family does business there and demanding to know his dad's name, boasting his parents might know him while Ayn Rand nervously fidgets with his fingers. He mumbles that his dad doesn't do business, making Fu Sheng sneer. What, is he a coal miner?
Fu Sheng laughs, cutting him off. Honestly, the kids in this place
have already mastered the art of being fake snobs who only respect money. A crowd starts gathering around, thinking this is going to be hilarious. Fueled by the attention, Fu Sheng grabs Ayn Rand's textbook and actually sniffs it, saying it smells like cheap coal, followed by a wave of sickening laughter. Oh, I was hoping she'd do this. Fang Yuan stands up, grabs her water cup, and dumps the water right over his head, asking if he's a dog? Fu Sheng gets completely soaked, staring at her in absolute shock and rage. He rolls up his sleeves, stepping up to Fang Yuan like he's gonna throw hands. But joke's on him, Fang Yuan has literally died before. She's not afraid of anyone now. He might look quiet, but after living 28 years, our boy Fang Yuan is absolutely not a pushover anymore. The fight gets cut short before it even starts because the class president, Bai Ningbing, steps in. She frowns, asking what is wrong with him today. Plus, the Bai family is the most powerful house in South City, so nobody wants to mess with her. But looking at her only triggers his fire trauma. Seriously, dying from smoke is a nightmare. So he coldly tells her they should stop walking home together because he is staying late to study. Bai Ningbing scoffs, giving him a super weird look. She asks what kind of fit he is throwing, but Fang Yuan just wants her gone. He points straight at the door, asking her to stop ruining his study time. Besides, the school heartthrob Gu Huaiyan is already waiting outside. Now, Fang Yuan, Bai Ningbing, and Gu Huaiyan actually grew up together as childhood friends. Their families did business together and hung out all the time. Fang Yuan once thought she genuinely cared, always calling him Big Brother. But that was just a mask. She only loved Guo Huaiyan. Guan waves from the door, asking what are they talking about? He asks if they are leaving, making her look back at Fang Yuan. She taps his desk, saying she can tutor him over the weekend. Then she grabs her bag and walks off to join Gu Huaiyan without even waiting for an answer. Finally, they are gone. Only Fang Yuan and Anran remain as the clock ticks.
Behind him, the only sound is the gentle scratching of her pen.
To him, she was always the quiet, hard-working genius. But he can't help but wonder, Ayn Rand, what did I actually look like to you? He turns around to study her face closely. Slowly, her features overlap with the girl who held him in the fire. In those final burning moments of his past life, she had whispered his name, asking if he still remembered her. Maybe his intense gaze is a bit too obvious because Ayn Rand suddenly senses something is off. She looks up with a puzzled expression and gently touches her chin.
She asks shyly if there's something on her face, making him quickly shake his head.
Talk about awkward. To break the tension, he quickly looks for a distraction. He pulls a random physics worksheet out of his desk on impulse. He flips to a page and slides it over.
He asks if she can explain the problem. Once she looks at it,
Ayn Rand instantly relaxes, taking a quick glance. She says it is pretty simple, but to him, it is a total nightmare. His physics is tragic, always tanking his grades. She pulls out her scratch paper and effortlessly jots down 2 formulas. Explaining it step by step, she gently asks if it makes sense now. He just stares blankly, making her smile and offer to help him with the basics. Clearly, she clocked his total confusion and figured out his actual level. She closes the worksheet and opens the textbook right to chapter 1. She softly says they will take it slow. Honestly, her tutoring is incredible. It is way better than his rigid teacher and miles ahead of Bai Ningbing's superficial help. In his past life, he chased Bai Ningbing like a fool, constantly bothering her with endless questions just to get her attention. She begs the class genius, Bai Ningbing, to explain the work-energy theorem to her. Honestly, why is the last math question always impossible? That struggle is too real. Bai Ningbing is pretty cold, though she cannot really blame him for being annoyed. He always gives her that look, basically asking if she is an idiot. Suddenly, the school guard knocks on the door and stands there looking super angry. He yells at Fang Yuan and Anran, "What are you two doing here so late? Go home already, or do you want me to call your parents?" Only then do they realize it is almost 8 p.m. and the school is locking up. They quickly grab their backpacks and run outside while apologizing the whole way. Once they reach the front gate, a luxury car starts honking its horn at them. The car pulls up, and the driver rolls down his window to call her name. It is her wealthy family driver, Uncle Zhang, who came because she was late. "Get in quickly," he says. "Your mother is still waiting for dinner." Uncle Zhang gives her a stern glare, and his tone is pretty annoyed. She hops in, but quickly turns back to look at Anran. Since it is really late, she asks if he wants a ride home. "No, thanks," he says. "My house is super far away in the west suburbs." That awkward look returns to his face alongside a pretty forced, stiff smile. Plus, there are still buses running, so it is actually very convenient. Anran waves goodbye and heads to the bus stop, but the west suburbs are far. The bus ride takes over an hour, and she has only been there once. That area is totally undeveloped, full of old rundown buildings and shacks. Trash is literally piled on the streets, but she yells out his name anyway. As he turns back, she asks him if he even knows her name. His face blushes slightly under the streetlights as she introduces herself as Fang Yuan. Fang like a square, and Yuan like a circle. You better remember that, because even though she transmigrated into this world, none of her high school academic knowledge actually came with her. Talk about a tragic situation, especially since she was always just an average student. With the weekend here, she has no choice but to hunch over her desk. She flips through her old textbooks, which are surprisingly packed with study notes. She might not be a genius, but she has always worked pretty hard. Right as she is struggling to understand the material, her phone suddenly rings. It gives her a quick scare, but the caller is actually Gu Huan. He sends her a photo of a quiet study room inside the library. There are textbooks and milk tea on the table with a crying emoji from him. He complains that studying on the weekend is miserable since he is an art major. He is totally bored to death and asks if she wants to join him. Since Gu Huaian is an art student, studying with the strict Bai Ningbing is crazy. Who even sets up a library date anyway? So she texts back, "Not going." He stops texting back, allowing her to get right back to her books. But the more she reads, the more her brain feels like complete mush. She really misses the way Anran patiently explained everything to her that afternoon. She grabs her phone and checks the class group chat files. After downloading the updated class contact list, she finally finds Anran's phone number. Our boy dials Anran, and she picks up almost instantly. He says, "Hey classmate Ann, it is Fang Yuan." She hesitantly asks what is up, and he laughs. "I was studying and just thought of you." "Did I disturb you?" he asks, and just like that, they start talking about everything. They gossip about which high school teachers are the absolute strictest and which ones are totally snobbish. He even shares some school legends that have been around for 800 years, but she never heard of. While sharing rumors and gossip, she keeps agreeing with him and matching his energy. She gasps dramatically at his stories, which really satisfy his inner storyteller. Honestly, this girl is incredibly gentle. But he still cannot figure out why he cannot remember their past connection. Where on earth did their lives overlap before? They keep chatting for a long time, before finally hanging up. Later, he casually opens his social media feed to scroll, only to find that the cold class monitor, Bai Ningbing, actually posted an update. She wrote about reviewing physics today and finding it pretty rewarding. The photo shows a corner of her workbook packed with likes and comments begging her to carry them. Students are crying about how hard physics is, wondering why she is suddenly studying so hard. If she keeps improving, she is going to score a perfect 200 points soon.
They beg her to stop studying. Before Ayn Rand transferred into their class,
Bai Ningbing was always the undisputed #1, beating the runner-up by dozens of points. But ever since Ayn Rand arrived, her top spot was seriously threatened. Their test scores are neck and neck, always extremely close. They constantly trade the top 2 spots, and the other classmates love the drama.
everyone wants to see a tense, epic showdown between these two study gods.
But unfortunately, as far as he can remember, it is not like that. Bai Ningbing and Ayn Rand have probably spoken less than 10 sentences to each other. They are barely even acquaintances. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan feels bad for taking up so much of her time. Since he feels pretty guilty about calling her so late, he sneaks into the kitchen that night. He finds some ingredients and bakes a fresh batch of cookies as a thank you gift for her. Back in the day, he loved making these little treats, always experimenting with recipes. He used to bring his cakes and cookies to Bai Ningbing to test, but in his past life, he once visited her office and accidentally found those exact cookies sitting in her drawer. She had only eaten a single bite, and the rest were completely untouched. Some were even covered in mold, which was a harsh reality check. He realized she never liked his gifts. Suddenly, his mom hears some noise. She walks downstairs to the kitchen, frowning at him for wasting food yet again. She complains, "Bai Ningbing does not even like these. Why do not you try something else?" But he replies, "Who said they are for Bai Ningbing? These are for the new transfer." He packs the cookies into a neat box, speaking with pure, unbothered confidence. His mom stares at him in surprise, marveling at how he finally changed his mind. The next day during break, he turns around. He places the cookies right on Ayn Rand's desk. She opens the box with careful curiosity. Instantly, her eyes light up with a mix of surprise, pure joy, and a bit of shyness. She whispers, "Classmate Fang Yuan, are you really the very first person to bake cookies for me? Honestly, having your hard work appreciated by someone like her feels absolutely amazing." Right then, class monitor Bai Ningbing walks out of the teacher's office carrying a massive stack of test papers. Bai Ningbing happens to walk past their row and suddenly stops dead in his tracks. He glances over at them and out of nowhere randomly brings up her homemade cookies. Talk about jump scares. This guy is so unpredictable, he startles Fang Yuan and Ayn Rand. Bai Ningbing just stands there, staring at the cookies, asking Fang Yuan a pretty weird question. He reminds her that she once promised never to give her baking to anyone else. Fang Yuan scratches her head, remembering how she chased this guy back in high school. She did tell him back then that absolutely nobody else would ever taste her handmade sweets. Looking back, she was such a massive simp. Talk about peak cringe. Why did he have to bring that up now? She just ignores him completely. Seeing that Fang Yuan is giving him the cold shoulder, he turns to chat with Ayn Rand. He drops some test papers on the desk, asking Ayn Rand if her physics is actually good. It seems like a random conversation starter, and Ayn Rand just shakes her head in response. She humbly replies that she is just average, nothing special at all. Telling her there is no need to be so modest, Bai Ningbing pulls a paper from the stack. He hands it over. 98 points is honestly an insane score. He explains it is her transfer exam paper, which he grabbed while picking up the recent test sheets from the teacher's office. He brought it back for her, and Fang Yuan immediately leans in to sneak a peek. Aside from a tiny deduction on that final big question, everything else is actually a perfect score. Bai Ningbing points right at the mistake, explaining that it is actually a tough physics Olympiad question. He tells her to study it, but this brings back past life memories. In her previous life, Bai Ningbing spent all his time taking outside tutoring for this exact competition. He ended up winning the award, which gave him massive bonus points for college admission. Seeing Fang Yuan listening so intensely, he suddenly flicks her on the forehead out of nowhere. He teasingly asks if she even understands, making her glare back at him in pure rage. She snaps at him to stop bullying her. Did he really think she could never improve? Surprisingly, his smile actually softens, looking low-key gentle for once. He asks why she skipped the library over the weekend when he promised to tutor her. This is literally the first time she has ever heard him say something like that. But Fang Yuan just shakes her head, saying she can just ask Ayn Rand since she sits right behind her. Hearing this, Bai Ningbing's expression instantly drops as he glares at her. He shoots a cold look at Anran, then silently clutches his papers and walks away. After taking a few steps, he stops and indifferently calls back to her.
He tells her she better show up for Gu Huayan's big celebration party next Saturday.
And here is the thing. That celebration party is the ultimate turning point that changes everything, especially since Gu Huayan had low academic requirements. As long as he passed his art exam, he was guaranteed a spot, and in her past life, he absolutely crushed it. Several top-tier dance academies immediately reached out to him, offering him some amazing opportunities. This was a massive deal, so Gu Huayan's father booked a huge banquet at a 5-star hotel. Along with the grand feast, his dad also gave him a much-needed 2 days off. He was allowed to go out and celebrate with his friends on one condition: no staying out overnight. Honestly, you can't blame his dad, considering how much of a party animal he usually was. He hung out with all kinds of wild crowds and ended up booking a luxury suite at a local karaoke bar. Fang Yuan attended the party too, which was packed with both their classmates and outside friends. Many of his art class buddies showed up as well, making the entire place extremely chaotic and loud. Amidst the noisy crowd, Bai Ningbing and Gu Huayan were pushed to the center, forced to face off in a song battle. But just as midnight was approaching, Fang Yuan's mom suddenly dialed her up on a video call. Gu Huayan spots the caller ID from right next to Fang Yuan and immediately warns her. He says his mom went shopping with her mom and they are probably still playing mahjong at her place. He even turned off his own phone, begging her not to pick up. He knows his mom is using her to drag him back, but Fang Yuan is way too obedient.
She answers anyway, and of course, both of their mothers are on the other end. It is her mom and Gu Huayan's mom, who happens to have a massive, loud voice.
She yells through the phone, complaining about the noise and asking Huayan if he knows what time it is. She demands to know if he is coming home and where they are. She wants to send a driver, making Gu Huayan snap back, asking his mom to stop nagging him. He complains that he just finished exams and should be allowed to hang out without losing a limb. Both of them are incredibly stubborn, so they end up arguing back and forth for ages. Finally, Gu Huayan's mom drops the ultimate threat. If he does not come home tonight, he gets cut off. That means he can kiss next month's allowance goodbye. Now remember, Gu Huayan is the school's resident rich kid. He gets 50,000 yuan a month, so this single threat instantly shuts him up. He hangs up cursing, completely devastated that his night of freedom is officially ruined. After that, Bai Ningbing walks them down and waits with them in the lobby for Uncle Zhang to pull up. During the entire wait, Gu Huayan ignores Bai Ningbing completely, giving him the silent treatment. He is actually pretty annoyed because while he was arguing with his mom earlier, he wanted backup. Instead, he kept gesturing to Bai Ningbing, desperately hoping he would step in and help him out. Even just a simple sentence like, "Don't worry, Auntie, I will look after Huayan tonight." Honestly, Gu Huayan's mom absolutely adores Bai Ningbing and even wants to play matchmaker for them. If Bai Ningbing had just spoken up, she probably would have let Gu Huayan stay. But this guy was acting completely cold and detached the entire night. He totally ignored Gu Huayan's silent pleas, leaving the poor guy completely helpless against his mother. He just could not win this battle, so he ended up having to go home with Fang Yuan. He gritted his teeth, muttering that it was all their fault and that neither of them was any good. Talk about a complete vibe killer, but here is where things take a dark turn. They crashed. The police report later confirmed that Fang Yuan's family driver, Uncle Zhang, was driving drunk. He took full blame, while Fang Yuan and Gu Huayan spent the next 15 days stuck in hospital beds. Gu Huayan got it way worse, suffering severe damage to his leg ligaments. He will not be able to dance for years, leaving his mother crying hysterically by his bedside. Out of pure heartbreak, she grabbed Uncle Zhang, screaming that he had to pay with his life. Uncle Zhang faced legal consequences and paid compensation, of course. But honestly, what is money to a family that is already filthy rich? This crash was the ultimate turning point. If it had not happened, everything would be different. Gu Huayan would have stayed in the country, and the three of them would still be close friends. Years later, maybe Bai Ningbing and Gu Huayan would have even ended up together. Fang Yuan might have been heartbroken, but she would probably accept it in the end. She would have genuinely wished them the best and moved on to find her own path. Instead, this accident ruined everything. Gu Huayan had to abandon his dream of dance academy. He went abroad for art school, while Fang Yuan and Bai Ningbing ended up going to college in the same city. They would meet up occasionally, and even though he knew about her crush on him, things were just different. He would always ask her, "Fang Yuan, do you really think we deserve this after what happened to Gu Huaiyan?" Drowning in sheer guilt, Bai Ningbing would fly across the country just to get Gu Huaiyan's favorite Macau snacks. He would literally ship those almond cookies all the way overseas to him. She used to stay up all night setting alarms just to buy him Jay Chou concert tickets because of one casual comment. She would always tag along, and when it came to holidays or special occasions, birthdays or anniversaries, she never once missed getting him a gift. But later, Gu Huaiyan returned to the country after spending a few years living abroad. Of course, Bai Ningbing immediately rounded up their old friends to throw him a massive welcome party. They partied hard into the early morning, and right after Gu Huaiyan finished singing a song, he grabbed the mic and pointedly asked Fang Yuan, "Hey, now that you have been graduated for so many years, does your mom still control whether you can stay out late?" Talk about an awkward silence. The room instantly went dead silent. Fang Yuan knew right then that this guy had never actually forgiven her. Bai Ningbing tried to stop him, calling out his name. But the drunk Gu Huaiyan just snapped back, telling her not to interrupt. He got super aggressive, mocking her. Isn't classmate Fang Yuan supposed to be the good, obedient one? Since she clearly did not fit in with their crowd, he suggested locking her up in a small room alone. He claimed she would be way happier that way, all while throwing his arm around Bai Ningbing's shoulder. Fang Yuan was left completely speechless, unable to defend herself. She wanted to argue, but deep down, she still felt like she owed him. Meanwhile, Bai Ningbing just stood there. Bai Ningbing let out a sigh, gave her a cold look, and actually pulled out the keys to help Gu Huaiyan lock her inside the dark basement. Gu Huaiyan even patted the locked door, laughing as he shouted her name, promising to let her out after the party, but Fang Yuan never found out how long that party lasted. Because before anyone could open the door, a massive fire broke out and engulfed everything. Honestly, this backstory is so heartbreaking, but now that she has regressed, she is absolutely not letting that tragedy happen again. She knew that trying to stop Gu Huaiyan from celebrating his exam success was basically impossible. So she made the smart move and simply chose not to attend the party herself. If she stayed home, the driver Uncle Zhang would have no reason to drive out and pick them up. On Saturday night, Bai Ningbing called her up, the background noise incredibly loud. She demanded to know when Fang Yuan was coming over, but the reception was terrible. Fang Yuan barely caught her words and calmly replied that she was staying home to study. After a brief, icy silence, Bai Ningbing coldly snapped at her to do whatever she wanted. Hanging up the phone, Fang Yuan realized she had officially cemented her reputation as the ultimate hardworking bookworm nerd. Honestly, that is a small price to pay for staying alive. Close to midnight, she headed downstairs to check on Uncle Zhang. He was hanging out in the kitchen, video calling one of his old army buddies, laughing and drinking as they caught up. When he spotted her, he waved and called out her nickname. Asking why she was still awake, Fang Yuan hesitated for a second, but ultimately just told him to go easy on the alcohol since he was getting older. Meanwhile, in the living room, a group of ladies were having the time of their lives playing mahjong. Gu Huaiyan's mom had just won a big hand and was feeling incredibly lucky, but then she glanced at her watch. She suddenly remembered that her son had gone out to party tonight, and she wondered if he was back yet, deciding she should probably give him a call. But his phone was completely dead. Her friends at the table quickly urged her to keep playing, saying it was her turn to deal and she couldn't just take her winnings and run. Laughing it off, his mom put her phone away and shuffled the cards, joking that she would never do that. Back in her bedroom, Fang Yuan lay quietly in bed, watching the hands of the clock tick away. Everything outside was completely peaceful, just like any other ordinary night. And with that, she finally closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Fang Yuan is dragged out of sleep by her mom yelling that it is only 8 o'clock. Still half asleep, she grabs her phone from the nightstand and starts scrolling through her social media feed. One of her classmates posted a photo asking if the school beauty and the school hunk make the perfect couple. The photo shows Bai Ningbing and Gu Huaiyan both passed out asleep on the couch. Bai Ningbing's head is resting right on Gu Huaiyan's shoulder. It seems like the party went on way too late and everyone was totally exhausted. Naturally, someone smelled major gossip and snapped a quick photo of the two of them. They even posted it online, and the comment section is already flooded with teasing comments. Honestly, everyone saw this coming. They are literally the ultimate power couple. Seeing this photo jolts Fang Yuan completely awake, and she sits bolt right up in bed.
The car accident actually did not happen, and Gu Huaiyan never left that party.
Everything is completely fine. Overjoyed, she quickly smashes the like button.
She even comments saying it is so good to see this, but when she refreshes a moment later, the post is deleted. Out of nowhere, Bai Ningbing actually calls Fang Yuan directly. She says out of nowhere, everyone was going way too wild last night.
I went to sleep halfway through, so I did not join in on the rest of the fun. Fang Yuan wonders why she's explaining this. She just smiles, saying she thought Fang Yuan would be there.
If I knew you were skipping, I wouldn't have gone either, she says. Fang Yuan just rubs her nose.
Completely unsure of how to respond, an awkward silence falls over the line for a moment. Finally, Fang Yuan says she is heading to breakfast, and she just murmurs, "See you at school tomorrow." Even though the photo was deleted, we all know how fast school rumors spread. Especially since a ton of classmates actually went to Gua Huaiyan's party that night. By Monday morning, Fang Yuan can already feel the shift in the air at school. Everyone is secretly whispering and trading gossip, but she decides to stay completely out of it. Honestly, she has bigger things to worry about, like the upcoming monthly exam results. This is the first major test for the transfer student, Anran. When rankings are announced, the teacher intentionally builds the suspense, teasing that a massive dark horse has emerged in their class. He pauses before dropping the bomb. Ann Ran actually scored rank 1 in the entire grade. The entire classroom instantly erupts. This means Bai Ningbing, the long-standing top student, has officially been dethroned for the first time by the quiet new kid, Anran. No one saw this coming since he barely talks to anyone, especially right before the college exams. Another genius has entered the chat. Even though Fang Yuan already knew Anran was super smart, she still cannot contain her pure excitement. She turns right around to face him. She playfully reaches out and ruffles Anran's hair, telling him he is absolutely amazing. His hair gets completely messed up, but he does not mind one single bit.
He just gives her a super gentle smile, but their desk mate cannot take the PDA.
Nudging Fang Yuan with an elbow, he whispers to keep it down, giving her a warning look. He asks if she is blind to the class president's mood. Fang Yuan looks over. Bai Ningbing is sitting by the wall, staring right at Fang Yuan and Ann Ran goofing off. Her lips are pressed into a tight line, and her gaze is freezing cold. Honestly, she looks like she is about to turn into a literal ice sculpture. Fang Yuan immediately gets a reality check. Bai Ningbing was the top student for nearly 3 years. Suddenly dropping to second place would crush anyone, and she must be hurting. Celebrating like this in front of her is literally rubbing salt right into the wound. So Fang Yuan clears her throat and decides it is best to lay low. Bai Ningbing finally shifts his gaze away from our girl, letting her breathe. Fang Yuan lets out a massive sigh of relief. Honestly, thanks to Anran's insane tutoring, her grades have been absolutely skyrocketing, so now every single Friday after school, she voluntarily hangs back with him for another 2 hours, just to leech off some of that academic god energy. But out of nowhere, Bai Ningbing actually decides to stay behind too. The second the final bell rings, Gua Huaiyan rushes over to their classroom door, calling out for Ningbing to head home. He waves at Bai Ningbing just like always, but Ningbing does not even budge. He doesn't pack his bag either, just telling Gua Huaiyan right from his seat, "You should head home first from now on. I am staying for some self-study." Hearing this, the remaining classmates whip their heads around to stare at the class president. Like, is this really necessary? You already got a guaranteed admission score cut. You are literally going to academic war on us. See, because he won that Olympiad prize, and Bai Ningbing's dream university sliced a whole 60 points off his admission requirement. Even if he completely fumbles the actual exam, there is absolutely no way he misses the cutoff. Bai Ningbing completely ignores the chatter. Once the classroom empties out, he grabs his books and sits right next to Fang Yuan. She is totally baffled. Bai Ningbing acts like it is the most natural thing, saying, "You are close to Anran." It makes it easier for us to discuss questions. Honestly, that completely shuts her up. She jokingly wonders if she should just leave to give the two geniuses some space. Before she can even speak, Bai Ningbing actually pulls out a tough math problem. and starts dissecting it with Anran, calling him classmate An. Is there an easier way to solve this? I feel like my method is way too overcomplicated. Fang Yuan notices it is a question she got wrong on her exam, so she decides to let him stay. She quietly zips her mouth and just listens. Watching these two academic gods trade high-level tips while she silently leeches off them is epic. By the end of the night, she feels like her brain cells are transcending to another dimension.
Bai Ningbing and Anran have completely different ways of thinking. Bai Ningbing and Anran have completely different ways of thinking.
So when their minds clash, it sparks some serious genius-level ideas. Around 8 o'clock, Bai Ningbing lightly taps Fang Yuan's head with a book. "Time to go home, Fang Yuan," he says, finally snapping her out of her daze.
Right, time to move. Ever since she cleared it with her mom,
That she would be studying late on Fridays. Her mom had Uncle Zhang pick her up 2 hours later, but Anran still insists on taking the bus, never letting her drive him home. And this time, they have Bai Ningbing with them too. For a rich, high-society heir, his family surprisingly didn't send a ride for him either. Bai Ningbing rubs his nose, shamelessly asking her, "Can Uncle Zhang drive me home too? Didn't our families used to take turns picking all 3 of us up after school anyway?"
She rolls her eyes. "Hey, class prez, why can't you be more like classmate Anne?"
take the bus and actually do something good for the environment for once.
Bai Ningbing completely scoffs at her logic, saying, "Should I just call your mom instead? Tell her you left me stranded at the school gate in the dark, leaving me to my fate?" Honestly, she is so done with him. The two of them sit in the back, while Uncle Zhang quietly drives up front. For a fleeting second, it feels almost cozy. But even the usually talkative Bai Ningbing falls completely silent, watching the city lights blur past the window. Out of nowhere, Bai Ningbing asks Fang Yuan about the college entrance exam coming up in just a few months. Asking where he wants to apply, honestly, this completely catches our main character off guard and gets him thinking. It really is time to plan his future. This time, Fang Yuan wants to head down south. He wants to see the ocean, but in his past life. Because Bai Ningbing chose a university in the north, Fang Yuan desperately followed him all the way there. Not that the city was bad, but it just never really suited him. Seeing Fang Yuan stay silent, Bai Ningbing softly tells him to share his choice once he decides. Taking a deep breath, he looks at Fang Yuan like he just made a massive life decision. Saying he wants them to study in the same city. Honestly, Fang Yuan is completely stunned by this. He asks him back, is not his target school already set in stone? It is a top-tier elite university, and even more importantly, that school holds all of the Bai family's massive connections and friends. And relatives all graduated from there. There is literally no logical reason for him to suddenly change his dream school now, but he just shakes his head. Dodging the question entirely, he just repeats Fang Yuan's name, insisting they have to be in the same city, but Fang Yuan has zero interest in following Bai Ningbing anymore. Later that night, he cozies up in bed and shoots a message to Anran, asking him if he has decided on a college yet. Right after hitting send, he realizes how pointless the question is. With Anran's insane grades, there is not a single school he cannot get into. Anran quickly replies that he still does not know. Asking Fang Yuan about his own plans, Fang Yuan replies he wants somewhere warm, humid, near the ocean. Anran texts back saying, "What a coincidence, me too." Honestly, this guy is totally copying him. In his past life, he did study hard, but let's be real. It was mostly just to follow Bai Ningbing around. This time, he is doing it for himself. Soon, the final semester of senior year kicks off. The classroom vibe gets super tense as that brutal exam countdown starts weighing heavily on everyone. Even at their elite private high school, there is no escaping the pressure. The principal even sets up a massive motivational rally, inviting the top academic performers in the entire school to speak on stage about their secret study methods. No surprises here, both Bai Ningbing and Anran are selected as the star student representatives. Talk about a total snooze fest. Fang Yuan remembers this rally being unbelievably boring. In his past life, he only stayed awake long enough to hear Bai Ningbing speak. After that, he literally could not take it anymore and sneaked out of the auditorium. To clear his head on the sports field, he had zero memory of Anran ever speaking. He probably just missed it last time, which is honestly such a shame. Luckily, with this second chance at life, he is staying wide awake this time. Just to hear Anran, But even after Bai Ningbing wraps up his speech, and the other speakers finish up, there is still absolutely no sign of Ayn Rand. Spotting an organizer from the student council passing by, Fang Yuan grabs their arm to ask what is up. Asking why Ayn Rand has not gone on stage yet, the organizer has no clue either. The guy frowns, looking visibly annoyed by the whole situation, complaining that Ayn Rand is not picking up his phone, completely ruining their scheduled lineup. It totally threw off the schedule. What is he even doing? Fang Yuan instantly panics. Something is definitely wrong, and he bolts out of the auditorium. Where could he be? He frantically dials Ayn Rand's number, praying for an answer. All right, so just like the student council warned, every single call goes straight to voicemail. The campus is huge, and Fang Yuan is running around like a headless chicken. He sprints between classroom buildings, desperately spamming her number over and over. He tries to reassure himself she is not a kid, so she must be fine. But once he hits the sports field, past life memories suddenly flood his mind. He remembers, in his previous life, right after Bai Ningbing's speech ended, he snuck out of the auditorium for a walk and headed toward the gym. Hearing some strange commotion, curiosity got the best of him, and he peered through the window. Inside, a group of classmates had cornered a young girl. They were relentlessly kicking and punching her, shouting vile insults. For some reason, his sense of justice spiked, and he kicked the door wide open. He pulled her out of the crowd, warning them he would tell the teacher. He left them with that threat back then? Seriously, the cringe is real. But now? That girl was definitely Ayn Rand. He immediately starts sprinting like crazy. He rushes to the gym and slams the doors open. It is the exact same scene. Ayn Rand is cornered in the center, surrounded by the class thugs. Fu Sheng is right there, mocking her family for being simple coal miners. He sneers. So what if you have good grades? You think you can give a speech? I am not letting you go. I absolutely despise high and mighty good students like you.
What can you even do? Honestly, seeing how Ayn Rand actually lives makes me so mad.
Turns out the poor girl's life at school was way more brutal than anyone imagined. In high schools like this, toxic little cliques are absolutely everywhere. And Ayn Rand is a gentle, poor transfer student who also happens to top the class. Since she never fits into any group, she gets constantly excluded and bullied. In this timeline, she has Fang Yuan, but her past life must have been pure hell. He cannot imagine how lonely she was back then. Maybe that is why she became so incredibly sensitive to even the smallest scrap of kindness. Fang Yuan just pulled her away from Fu Sheng once, yet she remembered it forever. Now, those rich snobs see Fang Yuan and immediately block his path. Talk about annoying villains. They mock him, playing the hero again. Fang Yuan, this is not how it went before. And the timing is completely off. The pep rally has already wrapped up. Students leaving the hall are heading over, noticing the loud commotion. They peer through the door, wondering what is happening. There was never this big of a crowd before. Fu Sheng gets even more hyped. He sneers. Fang Yuan, I knew there was something weird going on between you two. Are you guys together or what? If it were anyone else today, I might have let Ayn Rand slide. But since it is you? If you admit you like her, I will actually apologize. The crowd starts cheering and making noise, loving the gossip. People whisper, who is that? It is Fang Yuan from class 4. And the top student of our grade? Ayn Rand stands up and tugs Fang Yuan's hand. Her face is completely pale as she tries to smile and tells him to stop. She whispers, there are so many people here, he cannot really do anything to me. She has a point, but our boy Fang Yuan is absolutely not the type to back down. He accepts the bait and snaps right back. So what if I like Ayn Rand? Our main guy Fang Yuan literally yells out, since when is having a secret crush illegal? He asks which school handbook even bans dating anyway, proving that shooting your shot isn't even that hard. Honestly, absolutely nobody saw this coming, and he just owns up to it without hesitation. For a second, the entire crowd goes dead silent. Not a single person is cheering anymore. Even the class bully, Fu Sheng, is totally shook, stammering about how Fang Yuan is an absolute legend. Suddenly, a harsh voice cuts through the crowd. What is going on here? The sudden, harsh voice echoes from the back of the crowd. He warns them they are all about to get suspended right before the big exams. The crowd parts like the Red Sea, and the guy walking through actually looks pretty familiar.
It turns out to be the student council president himself, stepping in to stop the drama.
He glares right at Fu Sheng and his accomplices, his voice turning completely cold. Asking if they even know the school rules, he calls them out for bullying right before graduation. Do they seriously have no idea that bullying is strictly banned? This is actually a major rule in the school handbook, even if people usually look the other way. We all know kids get secretly excluded all the time, but this was on another level. Since they brought it out in the open, Fu Sheng is about to get absolutely cooked. The president points at each of them, telling them they are all heading straight to the dean's office. He then turns to the guy behind him, Bai Ningbing, saying he will head over to the teacher first.
Asking if he is coming along, that is when Fang Yuan finally notices something wild.
Turns out Bai Ningbing actually arrived with the student council president. He was standing so deep in the shadows that Fang Yuan completely missed him. Bai Ningbing just shakes his head. But then he points at Anran, suggesting she should go too, since she was the main target of the bullying. It makes sense to have her there to clarify things, so the president just nods. With a quick wave of his hand, he marches the whole group away. Fu Sheng starts crying for help, begging that he does not want to face the dean. Too bad for him, the president says, lightly patting him on the head as they walk. The crowd realizes the drama is over, and they begin to disperse.
As everyone scatters, Fang Yuan honestly wants to follow Ayn Rand and wait for her outside.
But after only taking a few steps in her direction, someone suddenly grabs his wrist. He spins around to see Bai Ningbing staring right at him with a heavy expression. Looking deep into Fang Yuan's eyes, he tells him they need to talk right now. That is when Fang Yuan notices his face is completely pale, almost like a sheet of paper. His lips are trembling slightly, like he is trying to hold back some major emotional breakdown. Fang Yuan quietly asks him what is wrong, but he just grabs him without a word. He does not even give him a chance to argue, dragging him straight into a secluded corner. Bai Ningbing is way taller than Fang Yuan, and standing this close, the tension is absolutely unreal. The sheer pressure is suffocating. He frowns, calling out Fang Yuan's name. He takes a deep breath to steady his voice and says he gets that Fang Yuan wanted to help Anran. But he argues that Fang Yuan could have just called a teacher or even called him for help. He tells him he did not have to resort to this, and suddenly a realization hits Fang Yuan. In his mind, Fang Yuan's confession to Ayn Rand was just a desperate lie to save her. He figures it is just some big heroic act. Fang Yuan literally bursts out laughing and tells him he is dead wrong. Our boy was not just being a good classmate, he is actually genuinely in love with her. The moment those words leave his mouth, Bai Ningbing completely freezes up, totally unable to process it. He just stands there in absolute shock, a look of pure pain slowly washing over his face. She looks completely panicked and pitiful, suddenly pulling a crumpled paper out of her pocket. It is a letter torn into several pieces, and she is carefully holding them out for Fang Yuan to see.
She desperately asks if he is lying to her about everything.
Sobbing, she asks what she did wrong, because there is no way he actually likes Anran. I mean, if he really liked Anran, why on earth would he write her this love letter? But here is the twist. Fang Yuan had already torn up that confession letter and trashed it ages ago. He has absolutely no idea how it even ended up back in her hands. As he gives her a confused look, Bai Ningbing forced a pretty bitter, painful smile. She straight up admits it. Yeah, she actually dug the pieces out of the trash. She confesses that back then she was not sure about her feelings for him. She was terrified of dating during senior year, but she never imagined he would move on. She never thought he would fall for someone else, but seeing that shredded letter changes everything. Fang Yuan actually feels a wave of relief. His old crush on her is finally officially dead. And honestly, ending things like this is probably for the best anyway. Fang Yuan snatches the scraps right out of her hands and tears them into tiny bits. He opens the window behind him and casually tosses the pieces out into the wind. The paper scatters everywhere. There is absolutely no piecing this back together. Bai Ningbing turns completely pale and rushes over to the window. She grips the frame and literally leans half her body outside, desperately watching them fall. Gritting his teeth, Fang Yuan tells her that the moment he trashed that letter, it was over.
She should have known he stopped liking her then, and they should not even talk anymore. He warns her not to look for him unless it is a real emergency, just like she wanted.
They both need to focus on studying and preparing for college anyway.
The next morning, Fang Yuan walks into class and instantly feels everyone staring at him. Completely unfazed, he just sits down, opens his textbook, and minds his own business. But morning self-study is already starting, and Anran is nowhere to be seen. He nudges his deskmate to ask about her, only to get a pretty smug, teasing look. His buddy asks if he is living under a rock after the absolute chaos he caused yesterday. Bully Fu Shang got busted big time and has to make a public apology this morning. Anran is probably wrapped up in the whole drama too, which is why she is with the teachers. Right on cue, the school PA system suddenly blares to life across the entire campus. Right on cue, the school PA system suddenly blares to life across the entire campus. He announces that a severe case of school bullying has left a terrible mark on everyone. And now it is time for the ringleaders to face the music and confess their sins. Fu Sang and his little crew look like totally defeated losers, completely drained of their usual arrogance. All that tough guy energy is gone as they mumble out their forced apologies one by one. The entire class is quietly snickering, and Fang Yuan cannot help but laugh out loud too. Then, the dean asks Anran if she is willing to accept their apology. Anran speaks up softly, saying she honestly never even noticed them in the first place. They're not even on her level, so why should she care how loud they bark? Talk about a savage mic drop. Fang Yuan is practically ready to give her a standing ovation. But then she completely catches him off guard by mentioning his name next. She announces over the PA that she has not answered his confession yet, and she likes him. His deskmate literally spits his water out, staring at Fang Yuan in sheer disbelief. Confessing in front of the entire school? The consequences of this stunt are going to be wild. So Fang Yuan and Anran both had to write apology letters, but get this. They could now hold hands openly on campus, despite the rules. But when your boyfriend is literally rank 1, that is a cheat code you have to abuse. Even brutal science questions made sense with Ayn Rand tutoring her. Honestly, it made the stressful final semester of high school actually feel bearable. Time basically flew by. Oh, and what about Bai Ningbing? Fang Yuan suddenly realized something. She had not really noticed him in forever, especially since he stopped staying late for Friday self-study. When he ran into them, he kept his head down. He would walk past them as fast as possible, as if he was genuinely trying. He stayed out of her life. When the big exam results finally dropped, she was chilling at an internet cafe with Anran. She was literally teaching him how to clear minion waves when the class chat suddenly exploded. Someone texted a desperate warning that the scores were finally live online. They immediately logged off. She grabbed her phone to log in and her score popped up instantly. It was 30 to 40 points higher than her usual average, a complete masterpiece of an exam. She screamed with joy and immediately leaned over to check Anran's screen. But wait, there is a problem on his end, and it looks pretty serious. His score showed 0. Her hand started shaking as she whispered that it was impossible. Did you forget to write your name or bubble in the wrong student ID? Anran just shook his head, slowly pointing his finger to the bottom of the screen. His score was in the top 50. She screamed and threw her arms around him, making the guy next to them remove his headphones. He gave them a totally confused look and asked how many kills they got. She blushed red. She lowered her voice and asked him which university he planned to choose. Anran just smiled, ruffling her hair. Later on, a very prestigious Southern university offered Anran a spot. They threw a full scholarship at him and let him pick any major he wanted. Fang Yuan got accepted into a nearby teaching university, and everything seemed perfectly on track. Except for Bai Ningbing. Just days before the application deadline, she suddenly got a call from Bai Ningbing's dad. He begged Fang Yuan to help him out and talk some sense into his son. He wanted her help. That was when she found out Bai Ningbing had completely choked on the exam. His exam was pretty disappointing. But with the bonus 60 points University A offered him, he could still easily get into his dream school, but honestly, it made no sense. Fang Yuan really did not understand why Bai Ningbing's dad was calling her about this. Why hesitate on a top-tier school?
She could not wrap her head around it. Plus, she was just an outsider. What could she even say? It was pretty hard to turn him down, so she hung up the phone.
She immediately dialed Bai Ningbing's number, and it rang for a while before he answered. After hesitating for a moment, Fang Yuan finally speaks to Bai Ningbing.
He asks if she still hasn't decided on a college, and her voice sounds incredibly exhausted.
Fang Yuan is low-key losing his patience, basically asking if she has completely lost her mind. Like, Class Monitor Bai, what are you even thinking? Where else would you even go? With her insane grades, settling for some average local university would be a total waste. He asks if she won't regret it, not even caring if his words are too harsh. But for the first time in forever, Bai Ningbing just stays completely silent. After a long pause, she softly whispers that she's just terrified he'll forget her if they are apart.
She literally just wants to go to college in the same city as him. She was actually serious.
But there is absolutely no reason for her to throw her own future away like this. So he shuts it down with a cold stare, warning her that if she does this, he'll completely look down on her and they won't even be able to stay friends. Ultimately, she heads off to Lei University while Gu Huaiyan barely scrapes by his exams.
He gets into a northern dance academy while Fang Yuan and Anran both head down south. At this point, everything looks like a perfect happy ending with zero tragic accidents. There is no painful heartbreak and definitely no devastating fire like in the original timeline. Their families are still super close, throwing massive graduation banquets and celebrating for days. The parents even plan to send them all off to the airport together for their big flights. At the terminal, Fang Yuan and Anran are on one flight while Bai Ningbing and Gu Huaiyan take another. One heads south and the other north, saying their final goodbyes right at the ticket gate. Fang Yuan holds Anran's hand, while Gu Huaiyan tries to reach out and touch Bai Ningbing's hand. But she smoothly steps aside, putting some distance between them without making a scene. She's being so cold and distant, looking at Fang Yuan like she wants to say something. But she stops herself, and Fang Yuan just waves goodbye, hoping it's a clean break. Maybe they'll never meet again. But wait, here comes the extra chapter, and the author absolutely cooked. The cause of death was chemical asphyxiation from inhaling an insane amount of carbon monoxide. The thick smoke and toxic gas made it an incredibly painful way to go. All right, stop talking about all this useless garbage. Gu Zitiang waves his hand, impatiently cutting off the officer's explanation. The person is already dead anyway, so let's just call it a regular accident. Just wrap up the case, he says. But was this really just a simple accident? Gu Huaiyan clings to his dad, sobbing hysterically about how terrifying the whole thing was. See, Gu Zhiqiang started out as a cheap thug collecting protection fees in his teens. He slowly climbed the ranks to become a powerful boss with massive influence everywhere. A minor case like this doesn't bother him at all, even though the victim was actually his son's childhood best friend. But honestly, Bai Ningbing is an even worse piece of trash. She sits in the precinct completely silent, knowing that even without the boss's intervention, the cops could never convict her and Gu Huaiyan. Her suburban villa had 0 security cameras. So besides the two of them, absolutely nobody else in the world actually saw them lock Fang Yuan inside that dark basement. Getting away with murder just like that? Bai Ningbing stares down at her own hands, suddenly feeling completely sick as if they are permanently stained with blood. She points at the photo, asking who he is. 2 bodies were just dragged out of the water and left on the sand. After being bloated by the sea for so long, they are completely unrecognizable. But then she spots the woman's hand. I hold Fang Yuan tightly in my arms, a strange, indescribable ache twisting through my chest. The police officer flips through his notepad, noting that Ayn Rand was once an associate professor at a prestigious university. What a total tragedy, he murmurs. Looks like a double suicide pact, right? Suicide pact? That is complete nonsense, I snap back. A wave of rising irritation hits me, and I angrily cut the young officer off mid-sentence. Without another word, I walk out of the police station and head straight for the parking lot. Right as I pull my car door open, Gu Huaiyan catches up from behind. He grabs my hand, his eyes bloodshot, begging me to stay at his place for a few days. He stammers that he is worried I am scared, but I violently shove him away. His act makes me sick to my stomach. Why does he act concerned now?
When we locked Fang Yuan away in that basement, did he ever care if Fang Yuan would be scared? Stumbling back from my push, Gu Huaiyan stands frozen in total disbelief. I get into the car, driving aimlessly through the cold, neon-lit streets of the night. I finally pull up right in front of the old house Fang Yuan lived in during high school. The Fang family business had gone downhill over the years, and Fang Yuan's father had passed away unexpectedly while he was still in college. Crushed by grief and mounting stress, his mother suffered a relapse of her chronic illness. Shortly after, he had to go abroad for treatment, and that's when the Fang family's greedy relatives started circling like vultures. They seized the opportunity and completely took over the board of directors. They even snatched all of Fang Yuan's shares while he was desperately trying to pay for his mom's medical bills. Left with no other choice, he had to put up his childhood villa for sale. Our female lead bought it on a whim, and now Uncle Zhang is the one taking care of the place. He's finally out of prison now, but he's gotten pretty old. With his hair all gray, he doesn't have the energy from 10 years ago. Gone was that old stubborn attitude. He opens the door and gasps, "Ms. Bai, what brings you here?" Uncle Zhang looks at her, his eyes wide in absolute shock. She just gives a soft sigh, not really knowing how to explain her sudden visit. Uncle Zhang takes her coat to hang it up, still wondering what brought her back.
He follows her in and asks, "Where is Yuan? Did he not come back with you?"
Her steps freeze. She tells him, "Uncle Zhang, he is not coming back." This is actually her very first time staying here, so she heads straight upstairs. She walks into Fang Yuan's old bedroom. Back in high school, they were incredibly close. Along with Gu Huaiyan, the three of them were practically inseparable during every school holiday. They used to hang out at each other's houses all the time. But then Gu Huaiyan moved abroad, while she and Fang Yuan went off to a northern university. Fang Yuan barely came back here, yet the room looks completely untouched. It is almost exactly how he left it in high school, complete with the blue bedding. There are Naruto prints on the curtains and neat rows of books lining his shelves. Aside from his heavy textbooks, the shelves are packed with mystery and detective novels. Looking at all of this, a sudden, heavy realization hits her. She actually knew next to nothing about Fang Yuan, not even his favorite color. She did not know his favorite anime, nor the books he loved reading. This is low-key heartbreaking. She knew Gu Huaiyan loved dark blue, but never spared a thought for Fang Yuan. She simply took him for granted, assuming he would always be there whenever she turned around. Talk about a tragic realization. She was just too selfish to notice his silent devotion. Sitting down at his desk, she spots a small drawer hidden underneath. She casually opens a drawer and finds some old notebooks and documents inside. Tucked between the pages is their high school graduation photo, and she gently pulls it out. She and Fang Yuan are standing right next to each other in the very middle row. They looked so incredibly young and innocent back then, with Fang Yuan squinting and smiling so gently under the warm sun. She traces her finger over Fang Yuan's face in the photo, gently caressing it. Honestly, 17 was just peak, and they can never go back to those beautiful times. Just then, a gentle breeze blows by, and a letter slips out from the drawer. The paper is folded in 3, with the name Bai Ningbing written right on top. In that moment, a long-forgotten string in her memory is suddenly plucked. She unfolds the paper. It is the love letter Fang Yuan wrote her during senior year. It reads, "Bai Ningbing, you probably do not know this, but I have liked you for so long. I know my grades are just average, but still. I will study hard so we can go to college together next time I bring this up to you. Could you please not get annoyed with me? Do you like me back?" Reading those words line by line, a wave of deep sadness washes over her. How did she even reject him back then? She remembers telling him, Fang Yuan, "I do not want to date right now. Senior year is way too busy. I do not want to get distracted." But here is the real kicker. She always took it for granted that Fang Yuan would never, ever leave her. She just assumed he would always be there. Talk about a massive wake-up call that came way too late. Knowing that her own pride and arrogance literally pushed Fang Yuan straight into a living hell. She basically destroyed the person who mattered most, and now overwhelming guilt squeezes her like an invisible hand, squeezing her heart so incredibly tight that she can barely even catch her breath. Overcome with grief, she collapses to the floor, clutching that love letter tightly in her hand. crying out that she is so sorry that she owes him her very life. That night, she ends up sleeping right there in Fang Yuan's bed. It is crazy. He has been gone for years, but she still feels his presence. As if his lingering presence is still left behind. Lately, she's been staying at the Fang family villa. Seeing that she plans on staying long-term, Uncle Zhang kindly offers to clean up the master bedroom for her. She tells him not to bother. She is perfectly fine staying right in Fang Yuan's room. The old man just looks at her, shakes his head, and says absolutely nothing. She drives to work and attends meetings during the day, only returning to the villa around 8 or 9 p.m. Back home, she often sits on Fang Yuan's bed, reading through the books he left behind. Sometimes she actually sees Fang Yuan standing right there beside her. He points at a random line in the book and asks if she knows who the killer is.
Teasing that he will never tell her, but when she looks up again,
he is completely gone. Yeah, she knows she is just hallucinating at this point. But honestly, who can blame her? If staying sick lets her see his face, she is completely fine with it.
That is actually fine by her. Then, Guji Cheng suddenly invites her out for dinner.
Inside his private club, Gu Huayan is there as well.
He lights up a cigar and tosses a real estate investment paper over, slapping the joint development contract down and smiling as he calls out her name. Out of all the juniors, you are the one I believe in most. So how about it?
Any interest in developing that land out in the western suburbs? That place is basically a total slum. Dirty and chaotic, but the government wants to buy it back for major redevelopment. Back then, the relocation negotiations collapsed because the local residents refused to move.
The whole project was shelved, but now Guji Cheng somehow got his hands on the development deal.
Honestly, you know he used some dirty tactics. The guy's background is absolutely filthy. To force those locals out, we are talking massive bribes. Threats, hired thugs, basically every illegal trick in the book. Bai Ningbing pulls out the contract and casually flips through the pages. This is perfect, Guji Cheng laughs, feeling completely untouchable at this point. He brags about double happiness since their business is absolutely booming right now. Now it is time to think about marriage between her and his son, Gu Huayan. He claims they're both too shy, so he has to play matchmaker. Hu Huayan acts shy and asks what he's talking about, but his dad just laughs it off. He teases his son about his obvious crush on her, playfully messing up his hair. Then he tells her to set a date to bring her father out. They want to discuss the engagement, but Bai Ningbing stays completely silent the entire time. Honestly, these corporate marriages are all over the place in the business world. In their eyes, she and Gu Huayan are the perfect childhood sweethearts.
Their bond is supposed to be unbreakable, but that is a total lie.
It looks better than any fake political marriage, but she just drives home in a complete daze. She collapses onto her bed and starts hallucinating. She sees Fang Yuan sitting right there. He gently touches her face and smiles, and honestly, this tragic reunion is so heartbreaking. He tells her she is getting married and that he should congratulate her. He even asks how much gift money he should prepare, while she panics, terrified he will vanish. She grabs his wrist, desperately promising she won't marry anyone else, but he just doubts her. He looks confused and asks if Gu Huayan isn't her precious white moonlight. He reminds her that she literally left him to die just to keep her childhood crush happy. Then he cries out that the fire is burning him, and bro, the sheer angst here is insane. She bolts upright, completely drenched in cold sweat. Fang Yuan is gone. Her head is pounding. This is karma, isn't it? She laughs bitterly. Soon enough, the media catches wind of their joint land development project. To make things worse, gossip tabloids start hyping up her engagement to Gu Huayan. They are calling it the ultimate power couple, the Bai heiress and the Gu heir. A fairy tale romance between childhood sweethearts. Reading this trash makes her want to laugh out loud. This has to be the work of Guji Cheng's desperate PR team. It is so forced. Now, Gu Huayan keeps showing up at her office like a lost puppy. She instructs her assistant to block him, using the massive workload as a perfect excuse. When blocked outside, he throws a tantrum, threatening to complain to his father.
He wants his dad to send backup so she finally has time to date him.
Honestly, his annoying clinginess actually plays right into her hands. Guji Cheng actually transfers all of his top business elites over to her.
He even sends senior executives who have worked with him for decades. These loyal confidants bring over all the sensitive data on the Goo Group. They hand over terabytes of secure files, asking her what she needs. And guess what? It is packed with evidence of tax evasion, bribery, and illegal demolitions. Guji Chang is knee-deep in illegal schemes, and he actually thinks we are completely in this together. He thinks we are in the same boat, so his guard is completely down. Every time we meet, he happily calls me his daughter-in-law, and I just smile. I kept my responses short. Then, 2 months later, the Bai Group and the Goo Group held a massive joint event in the city center. They called a huge press conference to announce their new joint land development project.
Guji Cheng and I both attended the press conference, according to his grand master plan.
Once they announced the development plan for the west outskirts, he wanted to use this perfect opportunity to officially announce my upcoming wedding with his son, Gu Huaiyan, right before going on stage. He patted me on the shoulder with a huge grin and carefully adjusted his own tie. He had this proud smile and told her, "Daughter-in-law, I had someone consult the almanac. Today is a highly auspicious day, which makes it perfect for us to pull off big things." She just stared at him in dead silence. Then the host officially started the press conference. Everything was going exactly as planned. That is, until a reporter in the crowd. Some random tabloid reporter who did not really understand the actual schedule figured the project presentation was already mostly finished. He raised his hand and blurted out, "Mr. Gu, Miss Bai, I have a quick question.
Is the marriage alliance between your families actually real, and can you share the date of the engagement party?"
Guji Cheng looked pretty annoyed at being interrupted right in the middle of his big presentation. But since it was about a happy marriage, he forced a smile and answered patiently. "The alliance is absolutely real. Bai Ningbing and my son Gu Huaiyan have known each other since childhood. They are childhood sweethearts, and this is a completely mutual, loving relationship. As for the exact date, do not worry. We will make sure to notify everyone soon." "I never once agreed to marry anyone," she says, calmly taking a sip of water. She picks up the microphone and drops that cold line with zero hesitation. That single sentence was like dropping an absolute bomb on the entire room, and the reporters completely lost their minds. Wait, did she just call it off last second? What is going on here? This is a massive scoop, and Gu Qiang is so shocked he cannot even process it. While he stands there frozen, she calmly gets up and grabs the presentation remote. She immediately projects every single piece of Guji Cheng's dark criminal history right onto the main screen. Tax evasion, bribery, and straight-up violent crimes. Why on earth would our reputable Bai Group ever partner with a literal mob-run company? Guji Cheng completely snaps, jumping up to dump a cup of hot tea straight over her head. He screams, "Are you out of your mind, Bai Ningbing?" She just calmly wipes her face. She actually laughs and says, "Maybe I am crazy, but with a criminal enterprise like yours? I sincerely hope the regulatory authorities launch a full investigation and crack down hard.
Do not let anyone off. Meanwhile, Gu Huaiyan is just sitting right in the audience.
Some random media spotlight shifts and shines directly onto his pale, terrified face. The guy is completely paralyzed with fear and looks totally panicked. By the next day, news of the Goo Group's gang-related crimes is absolutely everywhere, exposing exactly how they built their dirty empire. And just like that, the police move in. They drag Guji Cheng away in handcuffs. The photos of his arrest are priceless. His eyes are full of pure rage and resentment. But when the wall falls, everyone pushes. The total ruin and bankruptcy of the Gi Group was completely inevitable at this point. Gu Huaiyan tried to run over and find her, but security immediately blocked his path. He desperately yells her name from a distance, asking, "Bai Ningbing!" Gu Huaiyan literally begs her for a reason, demanding to know why she did this. He asks how he ever offended her, but she just gives him a cold stare. Looking down at her own hands, she coldly tells him they both belong in hell. He just shakes his head, totally clueless about the absolute darkness she is speaking of. But soon, the locals his father violently kicked out of the west suburbs find out. Once the Gu family bankrupts, the angry mob returns for some serious payback. They completely storm the mansion, looting every single thing of value in sight. Gu Huaiyan and his mom are left shivering in a corner as things get insanely violent. Out of nowhere, someone sets a fire and the entire luxury villa goes up in flames. Their servants immediately flee because who actually cares about these ruined elites now?
It takes his own mother dragging him through the smoke to barely crawl out alive.
They survive the blaze, but Gu Huaiyan is left in absolutely terrible shape. Inhaling massive amounts of toxic smoke has caused him severe, irreversible brain damage. He is left completely unresponsive, and though there is a tiny chance he recovers, he will likely be on life support as a vegetable forever. Talk about a brutal downfall. While the Gu family crumbles, Bai Ningbing's dad keeps blowing up her phone.
He screams at her, accusing her of thinking she is too big to be controlled.
He demands to know if she realizes the massive business deals she just ruined. Furious about the losses, he asks how she could betray her own childhood friend. He calls her heartless, and honestly, you can't even blame her for ignoring his calls.
Sick of the nagging, she blocks him and starts driving aimlessly through the night.
Flying down the highway, she starts hallucinating that Fang Yuan is right there.
He doesn't say a single word, just pushes her straight toward a black car.
He pulls open the passenger door, struggling to lift her gently into the seat. He even buckles his own seatbelt, softly whispering her name, Bai Ningbing. In her mind, the Phantom asks if she loves Gu Huaiyan, but she quickly denies it. He sighs, suddenly glaring, as he asks who she actually loves. Is it him? She tries to smile and confess, but Fang Yuan immediately shakes his head. He tells her there is no way she loves him. If she did, how could she have abandoned him to die alone in that dark basement? Instantly, the memory of that raging basement fire flashes back, completely consuming her with guilt.
Tears streaming down her face, she whispers that she is coming to find him. The ghost of Fang Yuan tilts his head, and she abruptly swerves off the highway. She speeds through the pitch-black night toward the deserted beach where he drowned. Racing past silent fields and old ruins, her imaginary passenger gasps in sudden fear. This is the very water that swallowed him. She slams her foot on the gas. The car rockets forward into the crashing waves, plunging deep into the dark blue abyss. Unbuckling her seatbelt, she reaches out to embrace the beautiful Phantom beside her. Holding him close, she whispers that she is finally here to join him. Desperate for the only boy she ever loved to finally forgive her in the end.